So Rosaline, what are the main characteristics of a renewable energy project?
Renewable projects are clearly industrial projects following the same type of milestones, that is to say the project development, the engineering, procurement, construction phase, the financing, the operation and maintenance phase, the potential repowering, and the decommissioning and dismantling phase. The necessary development time of a project is significantly long in France, as it takes about 7 years. This length tends to increase between the sourcing of a wind project and its commissioning, and about 5 years in solar, to be compared to respectively 5.5 years and 3.5 years in average in the rest of Europe. The considered lifetime on the onshore and PV assets are about 25 to 30 years, roughly.
Thank you. And what are the challenges or your challenges as a developer of such projects?
Most importantly, for wind and solar, the local consultation is crucial to ensure the proper integration of projects in the local ecosystem and the local appropriation by making sure that the project owner has appropriation and the support from local authorities, citizens and NGOs. Then there is a permitting phase that can last 2 years for onshore wind and 18 months for solar PV. There is as well an environmental impact assessment that aims to avoid, reduce and eventually compensate residual impacts on ecosystems and biodiversity. And for solar projects, there is a specific challenge that is the access to affordable land due to the scarcity of this land and resulting in rent that increase, and it becomes a major challenge for developers to stay competitive.
Thank you. And what are the drivers for competitiveness?
Procurement strategy is key for competitiveness, and the renewable projects are CapEx focused. Subsequently, the ability to purchase equipment, mainly solar panels and wind turbines, and optimize the cost is key to create value and be competitive, whereas the fossil fuels power producer also have to focus on the fossil fuels price volatility. If we focus on financing, we see that the integration of local stakeholders in the project financing, either with debt or based on equity, ensure local appropriation by creating shared value with local stakeholders. It is obvious that the financing scheme is crucial for the competitiveness of the projects. The access to cheap finance is key, and it's mandatory to negotiate interest rates as they have significant impacts on the competitiveness of the projects. The financing engineering is as well very structuring. The financing solution is often the project finance based on a special purpose vehicle, which use non-recourse financing. In other words, the link and the bank debt injected into a project are only remunerated by the cash flow generated by the asset itself. Today, renewable energies are generally financed with 20% of equity and 80% of bank debt. If we focus on the operation and maintenance, the renewable energies are decentralized systems with very local workforce in multiple sites, generating a new model in OPEX management that must meet the health and safety requirements despite the decentralized characteristic that requires specific organization. And the performance of the assets is based on operational excellency that can be enhanced by digital tools, allowing, for instance, predictive maintenance, detection and resolution of defaults, optimization of production with, for instance, optimized trackers on solar panels.
So, Rosaline, you refer to the renewable energy industry as a rapidly expanding one. Do you believe this fast development rate would remain steady, and will it be sufficient to guarantee climate stabilization?
Undeniably, renewable energies have to grow rapidly if we want to reach our climate ambitions. The IEA has cautioned in 2021 that renewable growth needs to double to reach Paris Agreement goal of net zero emissions by 2050. And the IEA estimate that in 2050, to reach the net zero, 2/3 of total energy supply will come from wind, solar, bioenergy, geothermal, and hydroenergy. And solar alone will count for 1/5 of energy supplies, and solar PV capacity should be multiplied by 20 worldwide by 2050. And France is an interesting case with its power mix, which is already mainly low carbon. What role will renewables play in the future power mix? An extensive analysis had been done by the TSO, the Transmission System Operator RTE, with several constraints. And RTE has designed 6 power mix scenarios for 2050, which are all aligned with climate ambitions, technologically feasible and economically viable, based on one hand, 100 renewable scenarios, that means reaching 100 renewable in 2050, or scenario with a mix of renewable and nuclear. RTE has considered the following assumptions. First, an increasing power demand through electrification of usages, mainly for industrial processes and transports, and with an increased proportion of power in final energy demand from 25% to 55% in 2050, and with an increased power consumption from 473 terawatt-hour to 650 terawatt-hour in 2050. And the necessity to renew France's low-carbon fleet, nuclear fleet built in the late 70s, early 80s, with an initial lifetime of 40 years, and onshore wind fleet with the first plants that had been commissioned in the mid-2000s, for 20 to 30 years. And the nuclear industrial capabilities, indeed, EDF estimates that the maximum nuclear fleet in 2050 will be 50 gigawatts, allowing to produce 325 terawatt-hour, that is to say 50% of the power demand in 2050. And a fast deployment of renewable is needed in all scenarios to reach climate ambitions. In all scenarios, renewable represent between 50% and 100% of power production in 2050 in France. Choosing one scenario or the other, including a 100% renewable strategy, is clearly a political and a society choice based on cost versus energy independency and acceptation versus land scarcity. Clearly, energy choices are a matter of finding the right balance between availability, affordability, and acceptability, and somehow that is linked to the sustainability of the system.
Rosaline, the renewable energy systems are variable. So in this context, how do you see the question of electricity supply guarantee?
So far, flexible technologies are thermal capacities based on gas and coal-fired plants and hydroelectricity plants. I think it's important to underline that the high flexibility of hydropower, since hydro capacities can be mobilized in few minutes thanks to tank systems. As thermal capacities will be withdrawn from the power production to fleet to reduce the CO2 emissions, flexibility tools will be required to ensure that power demand and production can be matched. RTE and the IEA have carried out a study on that topic, and the main conclusion is that a power system with a high proportion of renewable is technically feasible if flexibility and storage solutions are implemented. A wide range of solutions already exist and have to be developed all together. The demand-side management that consists in encouraging the consumer to use less energy during peak hours, or to move the time of energy use to off-peak times, such as nighttime or weekends. And demand-side management does not necessarily decrease total energy consumption, but could be expected to reduce the need for investments in networks for meeting peak demands. Second type of solution is the storage solutions with batteries, with a step, that means the pump storage power plants that are reversible hydraulic installations that allow water to be pumped into a lake and then used to produce electricity in the same way as conventional hydroelectric plants. We have biogas, hydrogen-fired gas turbines, and we have as well the European interconnections. That means to say that all these solutions, all these flexibility solutions are complementary and have to be implemented all together. It is important to note that wind and solar assets offer downward flexibility. Their production can be curtailed to relieve the network at a zero cost and with no risk for installation security. This ability is valorized by the grid operators, which compensate producers for this service.
So this is an important and very diversified ambition. How do you translate that ambition into job creation and this for the years to come?
Thank you for this very important question. Actually, Ernst & Young made the projections for France in the report Evaluation and Analysis of the Contribution of Renewable Energy in the Economy of France and its Territory. It was produced in June 2020. And it says that in 2020, the renewable activities counted 174,000 full-time employees, of which 57,000 for electric renewables, that means solar, wind and hydropower. In 2028, the renewable activities should represent 264,000 FTEs, of which 98,000 for electric renewables. That means plus 90,000 FTEs in total and 40,000 FTEs for electrical renewables by 2028, but it is very significant. And for the field of electric renewables, the FTEs growth is mainly concentrated on O&M, on construction, and on equipment manufacturing. So this is to say that renewable energy will dominate energy systems, and there will be a lot of opportunities in this vibrant industry for those willing to get in front of the change.
Thank you, Rosaline.
Thank you, Loïc.